Hello and welcome to Grit, the official gaming podcast from the Illuminerdi. I'm Danny Boych, and joining me today is Abubakar Salim. You may recognize him from HBO shows like Raised by Wolves and the upcoming second season of House of the Dragons. But on the gaming side, we know him as the voice of Bayek of Siwa in Assassin's Creed Origins, the founder and CEO of Surgent Studios, and the game director behind their first project, Tales of Kenzera ZAU. Abu Bakar, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, man. This is exciting. This is crazy cool.
So it's been about a month since Tales of Kenzera ZAU launched. How are you feeling?
I'm tired, man. Yeah, I know. I feel good. I feel like really good. And sort of, it's weird. They never prepare you really for the emotions you feel after launching a game. Like it's like what's the way to describe it? It is genuinely sort of it's everything. There's happiness, sadness, confusion, anguish. It's like, yeah, it's a lot, man. It's a hell of a lot.
Well, I hope you're able to at least get some rest now that.
Absolutely not, man. There's no rest for the wicked, bro.
So I know you've talked about this a lot, but what does it mean for ZAO being your first game and for it to touch on such a personal topic in your life?
I mean, it it was important, right? Because in my mind, I've always said to myself, like, if I had one chance of doing something, like, I need to throw everything I can at it and be as honest as possible while doing it. So, you know, pulling from a place of authenticity at least allows me to feel like, hey, I've done something honestly and truthful, and again, like as I say, you just don't know what's around the corner. So as long as I can do something that comes from a place of truth, then and feel happy with it, I it's good, it's a good thing.
Yeah. And so how did previous projects and even games that
Mm.
you've played before, how did they influence ZAO?
Yeah, I think really, again, I'm very much inspired by storytelling that kind of pulls from a place of what I call like the human truth. And what I
Mhm.
mean by this, it's like something that goes beyond sort of race or gender. It's truly something that it's universal to us all. And I feel like a lot of, be it either, a game like Kingdom Hearts, for example, where, you're playing a character who generally just wants to hang out with their friends,
Mhm.
or even um God of War, for example, the remake, the 2018 one, where it is just about taking these ashes, the ashes of your partner, or the mother of Atreus, and just scattering them over the highest peak of the mountain. Like those kind of elements of like, yeah, I can connect with this and I can follow through with this is like what really sort of influenced the wanting of the storytelling as well as like kind of gameplay of what I wanted to kind of bring with, you know, Tezuka Zerazawa.
Mhm. And similarly, how is now that you've successfully, been a game director, how has that impacted your view of future projects?
Yeah, man, it excites me, dude. Like I think there is so much potential and so much to kind of take from it all. It's very it's cool because you get to create art from really like anything and everything. And I think that's what's really awesome. You're not restricted by like there are other obviously limitations and restrictions, but it isn't like as for example doing a film or even like a play, like where you're grounded in reality to a degree, or you with a game, you could be anywhere and anything. And I think that's what's really cool about it. And essentially this first game was really to learn about that, to learn as much as I can about that, and play into that.
Hmm. And so, for those unaware, Tales of Kenzera ZAO is a Metroidvania game. So, what does that genre offer that others didn't for you in
Oh
development?
man, I like it was there's so much. I think like for me it was, being inspired by the genre itself, like this idea of throwing a character in a world that they have no idea about and having to, knowing that this world itself has all the tools in order to be able to kind of get used to it. This feeling of discovering and uncovering as you go along, that to me is essentially what grief is, right?
Yeah.
And the story of the game is about grief, and it's about the journey of grief. And that, it just felt right. Roguelikes, for example, or roguelites are all about the death of the self. It's about
Mhm.
dying and being reborn and continuing and striving and being better. The elements of the Metroidvania are ones that kind of inspire exploration, but also a tentativeness, a carefulness that kind of feel like, you are having to watch your every step because you don't know the world that you're in. And I think that's essentially what grief is.
Yeah, for sure. And did you ever consider any other genre, or was it from the get go
Oh,
Metroidvania?
from the get-go, it had to be this sort of action adventure platformer, right? It had to be like this side scroller because that to me was the games that I remember playing with my father as a kid. And, the Metroidvania elements kind of kicked in when thinking about specifically what I wanted to kind of conjure with this sort of side scroller action adventure thing. I think, that's where it all came from.
Mhm. And so how the game works, the combat system is relatively simple, but there's a
Mm.
high skill cap for it. And I've seen clips on TikTok and YouTube of people doing all kinds of these insane combos. And
Yeah.
that's something that when I played the demo, was like, I can't wait to get my hands on this and just see what is possible with juggling these
Mm.
enemies up in the air and everything. Is how much of that went into the game's development? Like, how much did you guys think about those combos
Oh,
beforehand?
hell of a lot, man. Like for me, it was so important, dude. Like I grew up playing Devil May Cry and that was
Oh
something
yeah.
that I really wanted to like emulate. The idea of it feels almost like a chaotic ballet, a
Mhm.
feeling of like, crazy fluidity, but also franticness. And if you are the player that kind of hits and, hammers that attack button, then that's what you can do. But if you're meticulous and sort of take your time about it, almost surgical, you can play with all these really cool combos and do these really cool elements of it. I wanted to capture that feeling of freedom, freedom
Mhm.
of play.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Devil May Cry because I feel like this is Tales of Kenzera is the first time since I played Devil May Cry 5 where
Oh,
I feel like
nice.
from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, drastically
Mm.
different player, like completely
Amazing.
different. And if I could go back
Yeah.
and like watch myself play the start, I'd be like pulling my hair out and just being like,
Oh man.
why are you doing like, why aren't you using this weapon?
Yeah.
Why aren't you doing this?
Yeah.
It's so fun to just look back on that kind of progression,
Mm.
and I just love any game that has that sort of element in it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think again, it's that whole freedom of play and that feeling of being in control. I think
Mhm.
that's what's really dope about it.
Yeah,
It's something that I really love about, the Devil May Cry games.
yeah. And so I wanted to kind of talk to you about Steam Next Fest and all this, some of these like smaller
Mm.
festivals that kind of highlight smaller games like Tales of Kenzera. And so you, of course, had your large, massive presentation at the Game Awards, revealing the trailer for this game. Um, but talk to me a little bit about the importance of Steam Next Fest because that's kind of when not that I hadn't heard of it before, but that's kind
Mm.
of I got my hands on it for the first time, and I was like, oh, this is something special here, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's where you guys kind of gained a lot of steam. Um,
Yeah.
pun not intended, but so yeah, talk to me about how like that kind of whole process worked out for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we didn't really plan on doing a demo.
Hmm.
It wasn't really part of the schedule, and I think as well being a studio of our size and having the limitations that we had with our budget, like to do something like that, it it's not as easy as you think. So, to kind of deliver we felt it was really important because it's all well and good presenting something and showing something off,
Hmm.
but I think actually truly the trick or the big important aspect is to essentially get players hands on, because otherwise how are you going to know if something's all right or not?
All right.
And what was great about Steam as well, Steam Next Fest, was we had a lot of learnings from it. We
Mhm.
took a lot from it. idea of, for example, like, shader caches, or like, getting, the frame rate up and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is stuff that, like, not necessarily saying that we weren't gonna, do,
Mhm.
but it highlighted the importance. Players highlighted that importance, and that's what we really wanted to listen to, what we really wanted to kind of respect.
Yeah, was there like any, I don't know, bug or maybe intended or unintended that kind of just you didn't notice until players got their hands on it, and then it just kind of either you fixed it or it just left it in the game entirely?
Oh man, a few, dude. Like things like, there's a there's a bug where I think, yeah, you could see it at the during the Steam Next Fest demo of when so yeah, elements like, for example, like there was the infinite sort of dust particle effect that was
Hmm.
created when people would push the block off. I'd say another bug that we've been dealing with at the moment, which is we're so happy that we fixed it. But we've seen it mainly through playthroughs of now since launch, is the when you pause to see the map and then you come out of the map and try to move, you can't move, and that drove me nuts. And so I think it drove the team nuts. And so we've all banded together and got that fix in, like, for the next patch. So there's all sorts of stuff that we're fixing, and playing on and building on, that we've learned, especially from watching people play.
Hmm. And I'm curious, with a game like this, I prefer playing it on handheld, whether that be Switch or Steam Deck. And I'm
Mm.
sure that I feel like that sentiment is across most of the gaming industry. Do you guys see any um, like evidence to kind of back that up with your games, like numbers on these platforms?
Yeah, I'd say essentially, like, I think just naturally people are preferring to play things on the go.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's something that has been, yeah, it kind of, the wave started with the Switch, and now as the deck is coming out, you've also got the
Right.
PS Portal, and like, this is something that people are wanting to do, are wanting to essentially play as many games as they can, whatever they look like, on something that they can hold and travel with. There's nothing greater than when I remember as a kid playing the Game Boy and always being connected to something.
Right.
So I think, like, that's essentially what we've noticed. And something that was really kind of stood out for us, for example, after Steam Next Fest, was how many people were requesting this game on the Steam Deck.
Hmm.
Like, that was something, man. And like, that was like, okay, cool. We've got to fight for verification for this, because people want it. So we got to do it. And we delivered.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So you know, you talked that your work isn't done. You're not able to rest quite yet. But
Yeah.
from what you can talk about, what's next for ZAU and Surgent Studios?
Oh man, I mean, you'll just have to wait and see.
Hmm.
I think it's one of those ones where, again, we're very fortunate to have been kind of given, after like the sort of success of ZAO, it feels like we're in a place of like, okay, cool. What do we want to kind of build into next, and where do we want to grow into next? And the community are so supportive in that front, and really kind of spurring us on, which is really cool. So it's just about delivering on that.
Well, you got your footing in the door. If you didn't already have it, Tales of Kenzera ZAU gets you there. But that is all I had for you today. So again, thank you for joining me. Tales of Kenzera ZAU is available now on PC, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. Abubakar, thank you.
Oh, thank you.